Okay guys, I hope you are being good for the sub. I wanted to go ahead and look at this class starter that I gave you guys to work on. First of all, we have to put all of these numbers in order from least to greatest. I've given you a number line with tenths marked out, so like 6, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, and so on. Before we can put them in order and before we can place them on the number line, we need to first estimate what the square root of 50 would be, and the square root of 103, and so on. So let's review what we did last week. We need to look at the square root of 50 and decide which two whole numbers that would fall between. So if I have the square root of 50, I know that it is between the square root of 49, which is 7, and the square root of 64, which is 8. Now, we always talked about, okay, so which one is it closer to, 7 or 8? It's closer to 7. All right, so let's go ahead and let's try 7.1. So we're going to take 7.1 times 7.1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 7 is 7. We're done with this number, so we're going to go ahead and leave a space. 7 times 1 is 7, and 7 times 7 is 49. Remember, if you have two numbers in front of the decimal, two numbers behind the decimal in your question, you have to have two numbers behind the decimal in your answer. So it should be approximately 50.41. All right, so that is close to the square root of 50, but it's just over the square root of 50. So we always want to see one that is above and one that is below. So the one that would be below, the only other number below 7.1 would be a 7.0. Well, 7.0 is the same thing as 7. So we know what 7 times 7 is. 7 times 7 is 49, or 49.00. They mean the same thing. So now the question is, square root of 50, which one is it closer to? 49 or 50.41? It's barely closer to 50.41. This one's 0.41 away from 50. This one is a whole 1.00 away from 50. So this one is closer. So it is almost 7.1, but look at that. 7.1 is just a little bit more than what we have. So our number, the square root of 50, should be just less than 7.1. It's not exactly 7.1, it's approximately 7.1. So we always say, well, it was between 7.0 and 7.1. It was closer to 7.1. Makes sense? So when I'm putting that on our number line, it was between 7.0 and 7.1, but it was closer to the 7.1. So I'll draw my arrow and put it right here above this. So the square root of 50 would go right here. All right, so what I want you guys to do is you can go ahead and work on these in your small groups and decide what perfect squares each of these is between, and then go ahead and round it out to the nearest tenth. Again, we always want one on each side of it. So one that's a little less and one that's a little bit more, so that way we can decide which one it's closer to. That way, when we're putting it on our number line, we will know where to put it, because it's not exactly 7.1. We would need to know that it needs to go right in front of it. Does that make sense? All right, go ahead and try that. You can pause the video and we will go ahead and press play once we are ready to continue on. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. Okay, so here is my work. I'll let you guys check your math. We did the square root of 50 together, but I've got the other ones here. I'll zoom in on each of them. Square root of 103 was between the square root of 100 and the square root of 121, or between the whole numbers 10 and 11. It was closer to 100, so I went ahead and tried 10.1 and got 102.01. Then I also tried 10.2 and got 104.04. Now, 103 is closer to this because it's 0.99 away from this one, where this one is 1.04 away. So it's closer to this one, but 103 is just a little bit more than that. So it's close to 10.1, but it should be a little bit after that 10.1. All right, square root of 62. Again, that is between the square root of 49 and the square root of 64. So between the whole numbers 7 and 8, I'm going to go ahead and try 7.9, and I got 6.241. So this one was a little bit too much. So now I need to try one that's just a little bit less than that. So let's try 7.8. So that gave me 60.84. 62 was closer to this one, but this number is just a little bit too much. So the square root of 62 should be a little bit less than that 7.9 squared. All right, and here are the last two. All right, so let's go ahead and start putting these on the number line. Again, we said that the square root of 50 should be right here, just under the 7.1. So let's continue placing these numbers now. The square root of 103, we said, was just over the 10.1. So let's find 10.1. Here's 10, 10.1, and it should be just over that mark. And again, we always put it back into our original form. Okay, so you guys can go ahead and place these on the number line if you haven't already done so, and then we will continue on. Okay, let's check our answers. Square root of 62. Now 6 is an exact number. That is the same thing as 6.0. Square root of 90 was just under 9.5. Well, here is 9.5, so it's just under that mark. Again, the reason I wanted to do that is because I know that square root of 90 is just under it. 9.5 is exactly 9.5. So the square root of 90 should be in front of it. All right, the square root of 37. $9.4 is exactly 9.4. And 7.2 is exactly 7.2. Now, why did I want to do this? I wanted to do this because now if I turn my paper, they're already in order from least to greatest. So we have here that 6 would come first in our order, and then the square root of 37, and so on. So when you're putting things in order from least to greatest, it might be nice to picture them on a number line or go ahead and put them on a number line. But remember, we always have to break them down into those approximations. So right now, I want you guys to go ahead and work on the practice, and we will check it when I get back on Wednesday.